Welcome back to the agenda. If you're just joining us, we're kicking off our fabulous week-long distance coverage of the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte.
Last week, the Republicans put several Latino elected officials, including Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval, on the stage in a conscious effort to reach out to a demographic group that strongly supports the president over Mitt Romney. This week, the Democrats also feature Latino speakers and, more consequentially, hundreds of Latino delegates on the floor, including several from Nevada. One of those delegates is Christopher Preciado of Las Vegas, who at the ripe old age of 19 is also the youngest member of the Nevada delegation and obviously one of the youngest delegates in the entire convention. He joins us now. Welcome to the program, Mr. Preciado.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'll bet. Congratulations. I want to ask you, Brian Sandoval, as I mentioned last week, he went and spoke to the Republican National Convention, and he talked about how Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan represent the American dream for families like Brian Sandoval's, which is to say Latino families. Now, why does a pleasant-looking young man like yourself disagree with the Latino governor from your own state?
Well, for one, he actually didn't get the majority of the Latino vote when he ran for governor, and there's no other president that did as much for Latinos as much as President Obama, so that's why I'm supporting him, and that's why my friends are supporting him as well.
Mr. Preciado, I'd like to ask you, I'm curious, you're an under 30 voter, you're also a Latino, obviously an enthusiastic young Democrat. When you're deciding which issues drive you the most at the ballot box, do you identify more, if I may ask that question, because you're a Hispanic? Does that drive your vote more, or is it because you're a young person and you're looking at the issues from that point of view?
Well, for one, I'm 19 years of age and I'm still in college. So all the issues that affect me would be education. Of course, immigration is something that I care about, and the economy, because I still have to pay for college, of course. So those are all the issues that I care about. And as far as I can see it, Obama's the only one that speaks to me.
Mr. Preciado, I wonder if you could be more specific. You've mentioned a couple of times how the Obama administration, from a policy standpoint, is more in tune with where you're coming from versus the Romney administration. Can you mention some specific policies where you find the Obama administration beating Romney from your point of view?
Well, for one, Obama wouldn't get rid of the Department of Education, and that's where I would get my Pell Grants, which is how I help pay for school. With immigration, of course, I support my Dreamer friends, and thankfully, President Obama just announced deferred action, which is how my fellow friends would get a worker's permit and be able to get out there and apply for in-state tuition, get out to work. So those are just some.
Whoops, we lost Mr. Preciado,
well, the vagaries of live television. Well, perhaps we will get him back, hopefully.
I wanted to ask him this question, too, and if he comes back, I will. The issues that he's talking about, economy, education, these are the things that affect him right now as a young voter and in the foreseeable years. But one thing I wonder if the under 30 group thinks about much is that we've talked about the fact that Social Security and Medicare are sort of unsustainable in their present form. Something needs to be done. At some point, that means that either those benefits aren't going to be there for him down the road, or that his taxes might go up in order to make sure that safety net stays there. And I'm wondering if the young voters are thinking about this
well, election. You know, that's actually an excellent point, and one that I've given some thought to, believe it or not, with respect to the fact that the nation's private sector job quality has eroded so much, really over the last three decades, accompanied perhaps by the decline of organized labor in the private sector workforce, if I may add, a day after Labor Day. But as a result, the pension just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, people who are that gentleman's age, people who are in their 30s, 20s and 30s, forget it. The chances of them having a pension are almost non-existent, as the type that their parents and grandparents might have enjoyed. Even folks in their 20s and 30s, their parents don't even enjoy pensions anymore. And so the Social Security program becomes all the more important to them, whether they realize it or not. And managing to get enough folks into the country who are working, paying taxes, and a lot of this goes hand in hand with immigration reform, in my view, to make sure that Social Security and Medicare are there for them, is more important to them than it is, I think, to their grandparents.
I've thought about that. You know, we're sort of on the cusp now of the baby boomers becoming seniors. And so we're going to see the Medicare rolls and the Social Security rolls just grow by an enormous amount over the next couple of decades. And you're right, pensions, we don't even talk about pensions anymore. I mean, private company pensions used to be the case. Someone would work for a company for 30 years. They could depend on that pension, and so they were perhaps less, you know, Social Security was an extra. It was sort of gravy. Now that people are looking at a situation where Social Security may be the thing they rely on the most, which in many cases barely keeps people at poverty level, it's a problem, and so is the fact that our budget right now can't sustain increases.
But Social Security as a primary source of income for senior citizens is already a reality for a lot of senior citizens, more than we care to admit, I suspect. You know, not only have pensions disappeared, but also it's all been transferred. If you're lucky at a job, then you might be eligible for a 401k at that job where you can contribute money to an investment program that's tax-free. But at the same time, an increasing number of companies no longer provide any match to that 401k. So increasingly you're on your own, and again, Social Security, whether young people believe it or not, is going to be hugely important for them when they get older.
And because it is so important, I wonder if the Democrats are going to mention it, and not just mention it, but talk about what their plan for the future. You've criticized the Republicans for their lack of a plan last week in Tampa. I'm curious to see what the Democrats have to say on Social Security and Medicare, which are two of the biggest issues facing this country.
They've got to lift the income cap. Right now it's $104,000. You make more than that, you're not paying any taxes into Social Security. That's got to be raised so that the wealthy you're paying into it.
Raise taxes. Always Hugh's answer.
Yep, that's right. That's a good answer. All right, Elizabeth, now we'll be back right after this.